At the top of page 9, we're going to go ahead and do the second example. I forgot to add the second part of the question and I wrote it in blue there, as well as the actual question, which is in pink. I also copied and pasted the problem down on another page to give myself a little bit more room. You guys might want to do the example on a separate sheet of paper. Feel free to hit pause and write down the rest of the problem. So now that you've had a chance to write down the problem, I'm going to highlight the first part and explain that with these problems, they give you information on two different angles. So the pink highlight is to show that information is on one given angle, U, and then the yellow highlight is to show that this is the given information on V. So there's two separate angles. I'm going to go ahead and draw U and V in two separate quadrants so we can find out more information, but we're going to basically flesh out the triangle in the particular quadrant that they are identifying the angle to be in. So for example, angle U in pink, I'm going to sketch out angle U and let's think about what quadrant this is in. 3 pi over 2 to 2 pi means that we're between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi, which means we're in quadrant 4. So in quadrant 4, that puts us, let's say we have a negative 3/5. So sine is my y coordinate, which makes sense that it's negative in the fourth quadrant. So we're going to draw a triangle. This is just a representative triangle, so not drawn to scale. Usually what you'll do is you'll sketch the triangle and then draw a perpendicular line to the x-axis. And the angle that they're referring to is the angle formed by the terminal side and then the x-axis. So think of it as like your reference angle. And actually I should be calling that angle U, as in U here. So U, and then they're telling me that Y, that sine is Y over R. So we have negative 3 for the Y coordinate and then 5 for the X coordinate. And so if I were to figure out the rest of the information, which I'll go ahead and do in blue, my X coordinate is positive 4, Pythagorean theorem, or 3, 4, 5 triangle. And then, so that's as much as I can do with that information. Now I'm going to move on to V. So for V, I'm going to draw the angle in yellow. And it's telling me that the angle falls between 0 and pi over 2, which leaves us in the first quadrant. So draw your terminal side. This is angle V. Drop a perpendicular down to your x-axis to form your reference angle. And given that x cosine is x over r, we have x is, and I switched to a different color so it's easier to read here. We have x is positive 7. Everything's positive in the first quadrant, so 7, and then we have 25 is the radius. And then finally we're going to figure out what y is equal to, which I'll do in blue. So using Pythagorean theorem or Pythagorean triple, this is equal to 24. And now with all of that information, I'm going to answer the actual question itself, which is, so I'll switch colors here and call this is the question we're going to answer. Okay, so find cosine of u plus v. So cosine, so this, we recognize that it's a sum from the fact that you have a plus sign there. So we're going to use the sum formula for cosine of u. So if you look back at it, that is cosine of u times cosine of v, opposite signs, minus sine of u, sine of v. And so how do we do this? Cosine of u. Cosine of u is you go back to your triangle with the reference angle of u, and you do adjacent over hypotenuse, so that gets me 4/5. Adjacent over hypotenuse of the now the yellow triangle V, angle V is 24 over 25. Sorry, 7 over 25. 7 over 25 because you have the adjacent being 7, the hypotenuse being 25, and then minus sine of u sine of v. So sine of u is opposite over hypotenuse. So we have negative 3 over 5 and then 24 over 25 and that's for sine of your reference angle V, the yellow triangle. You want to just make sure that you take the signs with you. So in the case of the pink triangle, the reference angle U has a negative y value, so you want to make sure that this right here is negative, and then you also want to make sure if the formula has a minus the quantity that you carry down that negative. Now in simplifying all of this, what we do is we multiply across the top of the first two fractions, and we get 28 over 125, and then a negative times a positive is going to yield a positive. 3 times 24 is 72 over 125. Add the two together, we get 100 over 125, which reduces to 4/5.